recording. Right, I'm going to go through the very basics of Class Manager in the beginning, and then it's probably going to quite quickly accelerate into some slightly more advanced tips and tricks because a lot of you guys are already using the system. So we'll make sure that the basics aren't going too in depth, but we're also going to cover things that may have escaped your notice if you did have quite a quick start. So to begin with, on the dashboard, I'm on a demo account here, so almost everything will work as yours does, but because we're actually not a real business, there'll be certain features that are turned off. So introducing the widgets, that's what these boxes are called here. And when you're looking at staff permissions and you would like them to maybe not see the total number of customers that you have or not see the amount of payments that you've taken, they are called widgets, and in your permissions, that's the word that you're looking for. So you can make it for other team members that they have much less information on the screen. As the account owner, you will always have access to everything. We can't hide any for account owners. So upcoming lessons will quickly show any lessons that are coming through. You can filter by today, this week, just your own classes or everybody's classes, and we'll turn some on in a second. Upcoming birthdays is probably really inconsequential, but actually one of my favorites because the customer service element there of wowing a student or surprising a parent, and saying, "Oh, Jaden, happy birthday," as soon as they walk in the door. So those little cute moments that you can just be enabled to do by simply knowing that, they have a birthday today, or in Arjun's case, it's on Saturday. Below that, we have an overview of your customers, how many you have, and how many you have obtained in the last 30 days. This bit here is also super important to keep an eye on, because if you don't automatically approve customer registrations, this is the part that will notify you just here. So that number will change, and I believe the box goes green to just give it a bit of more of a notification down here. And then similarly for students, we have the number of active students that you have. Active students just means people who are active, as in they have a live account. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are in a class, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on too. And then similarly, if you don't have automatic enrollments turned on, then they'll be pending down here for you to approve. Quite often, I know I was the same for a very long time. I didn't want anybody enrolling in classes because when somebody puts a 6-year-old in grade 6 TAP because they saw a 6 and thought it was the right class for their 6-year-old, you've then got to go and undo all that and send them a corrected invoice. But again, something that we can touch on a bit later. Up here, we have quick access to your staff. And if you have multiple team members, just hit view all, and that's quick access to their profile. If you need to get somebody's team member, team phone number, and anything that you might have on them, like chaperone information, DBS information, anything that you need to have quick access to, save it onto their account, and then you can get to them from here. The next one down is payments, and this will just show you any payments that have come in and the payment method as well. Now, I'm going to pause that ramble for a second and talk about Class Manager and its setup in general. There's probably 2 or 3 different ways to do most things. If you are a collapsible menus person, we can use these. If you are more of a visual widgets person, you can use these. Or if you are more like me and just want to get to the thing, we have a great feature called Smart Search where you can just start typing. So if I type a word like student, it will just bring me, in this case, it's brought up student birthday report. If I was to type in payment and spell it correctly, then I've got quick access to some things to do with payments. But the main reason that I use this is because I'll type a word like, I think we have ballet in this account. And that's real quick access to all of our ballet classes. And similarly for a student name or a parent name, we must have a John in here somewhere. There, well, we've got Johnson. So if you need to get to a student, a parent, or a class really quickly, just start typing. You don't even have to worry about going through all the menus. You can just get to them from here. What will usually be brought up when you search for a name is any customers that have those characters in the name, any students, and my favorite thing was the invoices here. So if a parent is stood in front of you in your reception and says, "Oh, I think I've got an invoice to pay," you can just type their name and everything that they've got recently outstanding and recently paid will be right there for you to then click on and get through to. So after that quick tangent, we've also got outstanding invoices here, and there will be a second filter for anything that is overdue. So if you are looking at your bank account and you know how many days it is until your rent is due, you can also see how many invoices that you need to be chasing down. Something to bear in mind here is if you use Go Cardless, when you generate your invoices, they won't be classed as outstanding. I had a big panic the first time I used Go Cardless because I made a few £1,000s worth of invoices and it was showing like £1,000 outstanding. And I had a big moment of going, where's all the money gone? Because the system knows Go Cardless is going to handle that payment for you. It won't add that tally into your total in here. The next section is our refer and earn. So everybody has a unique referral link. If any of your friends who are also studio owners consider joining Class Manager, send them a link and you earn 2 months free off of your subscription. But also, if you've been having conversations with people about us and they go, oh, I've joined Class Manager, by the way, and you go, no, you should use my referral link. Just send us a message and say, hey, my friend joined, she didn't use our link, and we'll still be able to honor those 2 months onto your account for you so that you've not missed out on spreading the good word. Next thing down is one of the newer additions is your customer map. Mine isn't working because I'm on a demo account with lots of fake data, but all of your customers will be displayed here as little purple dots, and you can mouse over each one to see exactly who they are. We're nearly there at the end. The portal percentage up here just shows you how many of your customers have accessed the parent portal. There is a way that we can blast them all at invite, and it will only go to people who haven't yet activated. So you haven't got to worry about spamming people that have already done it. There's lots that they can do on the parent portal, lots of information that they can see. So I strongly encourage people to nudge their parents towards the parent portal. It's saved me so many questions. There's people that used to email me several times a week, and I now barely hear from them because they just figure it out for themselves on the portal now, which has obviously freed up a lot of my time. This one down here, your favorite reports, also I think is quite underrated. There are a few reports in Class Manager that I just go to most weeks, and depending on what information you need and how you run your business, it could be different for you. But you can add them to favorites here so that you haven't got to then go navigating through the menus to find your favorite reports. And then the last one here is just telling you that our smart search is turned on so that when you start typing things, it takes over your screen and becomes a search engine. So that's a real quick rundown. I know I spoke at 1,000,000 miles an hour there, but that's a real quick rundown of the dashboard. Danielle, is it okay if I check in with you and see, because I can't see the chat. Has anything come in for this section?
All okay at the moment. I've just got one question from Fleur, but it's customer specific, so I'm gonna have a look at that later.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So what I want to do next, and we are going to have a little Blue Peter moment in a second, is just remind people how to create a season, what a season is, and how it works. So usually when you start out, we'll go create a season, and it's essentially a billing period. So when you see season, think billing period. If, for example, you charge your customers for half term at a time, then your season needs to be 6 or 7 weeks long, which you can just set out the dates here. If you charge termly, then it needs to be the 3 months of the term. Or if you break your payments down and everybody pays the same amount every month, then your season would just need to be 1 calendar month. So in this case, we'll go start to the end of May. And I also always recommend give your season titles as much detail as you can, so that a future you is going to go, oh, thank God I named that one properly. Because if we have just say, autumn term 1, and then a few years later, you're looking back through your data and you go, I've got 5 things that are all called autumn term 1. So always make sure that you put, say, 23, 24 at the end to specify which academic year you're working with, or if it's say, if it's a month, just put the year in like that. This is also what the parents will see on their bill. So I actually put fees on the end of mine, just so they know that that's the period that they're paying for, because we send our invoices out a month early, so they've got lots of time to see it come in, and then it's due before the month actually commences. So they understand what they're paying for, and it helps them manage the sort of expectation of, oh, you know, we're in December, but what am I paying for? Because I've already made a payment. It's just fair and it's simple for them. So if we were to create a season, it would come through and it would be shown here. I'm just going to sneak back to one of our archived seasons that's got a whole bunch of classes in. So if we look at April here, this is a past season now, but this is where all of your classes will live. And you can just see the overview of the capacity, the time, the day, how much it is, its current status, and then these bits here, which we're going to play with actually. Will indicate which classes have portal enrollment turned on and which classes have trials turned on. Because I know lots of dance schools and gymnastics academies and all sorts of different clubs will have classes that they are happy for people to just book themselves onto and start coming to, classes that they're happy for trialers to join, and then you might have more specialized classes like exam prep or competition team where you don't even want people to see that stuff. So we can choose exactly which class people can and can't see. And just here, when we select the classes, I'm going to just select all for now, but obviously you can toggle certain ones on and off if you wanted to. We just head to group actions, and then here you can see that we can either enable or disable the trial and enable or disable the portal enrollment. And in this example, I'm going to enable trial lessons, which will now mean, oh, hang on a second, I need to turn trials on as a feature. Because I turned these off earlier on. We're going to come back to this part. This is me jumping ahead. So we'll turn these trials on. And then we should see a second column. Yeah, so we just see here, at a glance, you can tell which classes your business is allowing people to try and which ones it's allowing people to enroll in. Anything before we dive into creating a class, Danielle?
All good at the moment, Rob.
Cool. So creating your first class, which I'm guessing a lot of people may have done, but if there's anybody here that hasn't, the first time you create a class, you have to put quite a lot of information in. But then going forward, you clone the class that you've just created and just change the things that are different. And usually we'll create our classes in sequence, like we'll do all of Monday night in Studio 1. So the first time we put that in, we have to enter all that information, but then to create the second class, we just clone the first and change the time slot, tweak the name, whatever it is. In this example, I'm going to just make a quick one and call it webinar class. And we'll just put it's awesome, the description, because this is something, if you are up for some audience participation later on, we can actually join this class. So we'll put it in our singing room, and it's with the tone deaf Rob Howarth, which is me. And we're going to say that this class happens on a weekly basis on a Saturday. Lesson format, you can have group or private, and then the minimum and maximum age. These are super important to get right, because when people are booking trials or they are an existing customer and they're looking at classes that they can enroll in, Class Manager will filter out classes that aren't suitable for the selected student based on their age. You can change what point Class Manager looks at to determine their age. So some people will work off a 1st of September cutoff or end of August, like the local schools do. Or you might be happy to say, even if you turn 7 in the middle of March, you can now join the junior classes or whichever it is. So only leave it as any if you are happy for literally anybody to join. Otherwise, I really do recommend setting a minimum and a maximum age for your classes. Off the back of that, I know that a lot of us do classes that are based on ability, such as like the syllabus classes, graded, tap, ballet modern, etc. What I would recommend there is go on your own experience. If I had to do this to all of our dance teachers, because I don't teach ballet or tap or modern, then my only thing that I can do is acrobatics. And I had to say, okay, take me a grade, take me an 11-year-old. what grade would you expect them to be in if they walked in off the street. And then you have to work from those sort of rough guidelines. If you find that they're not working, then you can obviously up them or lower them. But I found that that's been really helpful just to guide people to book the right classes when they're walking in off the street. The next thing here is price information. If you're VAT registered, you can set that up to be a default amount that you need it to be. And we can also customize what that is. In this example, we'll put it to 12, but we can just say what we want the gross price to be. And this section here is also really important, the billing frequency. So this determines how Class Manager will price your lessons on the customer's invoice. So if I was to say it's £10 for a term, it's always going to be £10 because we bill for a term at a time. A term is a season is the billing period. The next thing would be per lesson. So if the class happened twice a week for 4 weeks, they're going to get 8 lots of the class costs because it's looking at how many individual lessons that happens. If you bill termly or half termly, I recommend that we use lesson, providing that your classes only happen once a week. Sorry, if they happen more than once a week even. If they only happen once a week, then you can use the weekly setting, but they are kind of the same thing depending on how many times the class runs. And then finally, the one that can confuse people is what this will do is look at the billing period. And if the billing period spans for 2 months, then it's going to give them a bill of 2 lots of that price. It's not going to charge them that amount per month. If you want to break the bills down into monthly amounts and you're doing a long season, like an entire term, then that's where we can look at payment plans, which are a way that you can, in bulk, automate people breaking down the payment and they get reminders to pay installments as they go. Definitely something that's worth talking to us about because it can be tricky to learn in the beginning, but once you've got it, payment plans can be really, really effective. Oh, okay, we're nearly there on creating a class. I'm going to make this one free though, because I'd actually like you guys to sign into it later on if you are up for that. And the final section is where we say how long the class is and where on the timetable it happens. So I'm just going to say that this class is an hour and I've actually got no other classes in the singing room on a Saturday at that time. Otherwise, I would see sections here that are grayed out. Sometimes people come to put a class in a particular place and there'll be another class sat there and it causes a little bit of confusion. Class Manager won't allow any venue and time clashes. So if there's a class sat here, it means that either the class that you've created is in a room that's already being used, or the class that you're trying to create is trying to be put on top of another, and it won't allow it for the clash reason, but it will tell you which class it is. So you know that you need to go and change, oh, well, grade 2 modern must be in the wrong place because for some reason it won't let me put my singing class here. But once that's done and we hit save, that class is now ready to go. And we can see here on the basic information, everything will be saved. And if we head back to our season view, and we just search for the word sing. Oh, we've already got some sing cards. There we go, webinar class. It's just this one here. Now, classes will show as incomplete when there are no students enrolled, but they'll also show as incomplete if there are no active lessons remaining. Before we talk about active lessons, I need to clone this season and put it into the future. So this is how you would also generate all of your bills. So when it comes time to ask everyone to make the payment, let's say we're either creating our first season as we are here, or we're doing the next month's payroll, which we'll do in this example. All we do is head to clone season. And because I'm sticking to monthly, let's just go ahead and let's make this one in June 2024. And I'm skipping out a month there, but we are already in May, so actually we're okay. So what we see on this side, if ever you need to reset a class or not carry it forward, you can uncheck certain elements here. So if we wanted, say, to not have our street class pulled forward or our street class attendance, but we want the actual classes to remain, we can untick the students. Similarly for waiting lists and the actual classes themselves. In almost all cases, you just want to leave all these ticked. But for, I think the last time I had to untick something was when we moved from our competition focused season into our show preparation. So I just went through and unticked all of our competition classes because I don't want them bringing forward and people don't need billing for them because they're not happening. So that saves a lot of time being able just to simply not carry it through the next season. Now, I've obviously done something wrong here. Oh, I set it to July. There we go. See, Class Manager has got your back and it won't let you make silly mistakes most of the time anyway. I still try my best to confuse it. But now we've created a new season that's in the future. If you're ready to start billing people, then all we do here is hit Invoice Season. And what that will do is look through all of these classes and it will charge the correct person for the correct class, plus or minus any tax or discounts that you may have added on. But before we do that, I just want to highlight one thing, and this is super duper important if you have your billing frequency set to per lesson, because you may have certain days where a particular class isn't running, and to tell the system that that class isn't happening, we come to the class itself, come to the lessons tab, and let's say, grade, what are we in here? Grade 1 ballet isn't happening on the 17th because we've got an exam session that's overrun or something like that. You can just toggle this lesson off here, and then it won't show up on the customer's portal. It won't be billed for if your billing frequency is set to per lesson. And it also won't have a register generated for it so that the teacher won't get an email to say, hey, you've not done your register. Now, if that is happening to an entire day, I'm going to just tab off to something different here. We have a holiday down here in settings. So what I could do is create a holiday and we'll just call it exam day. And we'll make it on the 17th of June because that was the class we just chose. And it can also end on the 17th of June. These are inclusive as well. So if you are closed from the 1st to the 7th, make sure your holiday is set to the 1st to the 7th. Then what we can do here, because we may have had the holiday as an afterthought, is we can come back to our season. We can select all of the classes, come to group actions, and update holidays. So that will resynchronize with which days you've told Class Manager your business is closed for. So I'm going to go off on a strange one here because this scenario came up for me recently. A studio owner had multiple venues in 3 different local authorities, and they each had different inset days, different half terms. And the normal advice would be, yeah, fantastic, set it as a holiday, but your holidays are global settings that affect all of your classes. So if you're one of those unlucky people and you have to straddle different areas and it's a pain in the butt because why can't they just work to the same school timetable, then what you can do here is you can select all of your classes that are in one area, update your holidays as we just did, and then go and change them, and then come and select the next set of classes and update the holidays again, and it will only update for the classes that you've selected. What that will stop you having to do is to go into every single class, come to lessons, and then uncheck. As you can see here, it remembered that the 17th is a holiday because we set it up manually earlier for grade 1, but this is grade 3. So it's taken it from the holiday setting that we created. I know we said we were covering the basics today, but that's just gone into some advanced level tips and tricks. So I hope that was nice and clear. Feel free to hit me up with the questions if that scenario affects you, because it can be a real time saver. But we were about to send some invoices. We'll have a quick break and have a quick chat check before we dive into invoices.
All good, Rob. We've just been going through the frequencies, the per term, per lesson, per week, per month.
Yeah.
I've put a bit of an example in the chat, But if anyone else
perfect.
does need want to give me their specific needs, and I can go through with them, jump into the chat later and I can go through all of that again with you.
Yeah, guys, if you do feel like you've got quite a niche setup, just get in touch. The more complicated, the more we tend to enjoy trying to solve it for you, or at least I do. I feel like the challenge is always interesting. Last thing to cover actually before we move on to invoicing is if we hit this button here, price list, we're going to take F11 off, we can actually download a nice simple price list of what your classes are. If you're not a huge fan of the layout or the style, you can just copy and paste this into your own Word document or Excel, zhuzh it up, give it your brand colors, add or delete whatever you need. But it just saves you going through and writing out all of your prices if that's something that you find yourself doing. And also, we can download all of our registers as a CSV or a PDF. I know that the PDF, let's just do it. Let's go for it. The PDF version, there are some ways that we can control and customize the size and how many rows, but ultimately a PDF is always a locked in document that's quite difficult to customize. So if this layout works for you as a printed version, you can see there's some custom attributes that display on here. Medical information, photo consent, phone number. You can even have outstanding balance be printed on them if you wanted to. Obviously, just be careful who you hand that around to. Personally, when it comes to registers, I always prefer to download them as a CSV, which is just a fancy way of saying spreadsheet, because that allows you to chop and change and move things around so that it can fit with you. But definitely one of the underrated features is being able to download your registers as a CSV. We've just used all of our registers to help us put our competition entries together, because we were taking certain troops which we have classes for, and instead of having to look through the class and type down all the names, I just downloaded the register as a spreadsheet and then pulled the information out of there, because it's just so much quicker to do it that way. So invoicing a season. Let's do it. It should go purple and it will show you just the progress that's being made. You can click off this if you've got 500 invoices being created and you don't want to sit there and watch the circle go round. You can go and get on with things in the meantime. And just be aware that when you are cloning a season and creating invoices, if you've got lots of classes or lots and lots of students, the process will continue behind the scenes. So if we were to instantly clone a season and then instantly try and send invoices, some of those classes won't have finished processing yet. So it's always good just to double check how many you have. And by here, I can scroll down. In fact, no, I can't. I need to do something else first. I'm going to filter by invoice status draft. And I know that I've got 50 fake customers on here. So if I scroll down, I've got 47 invoices. That must mean that I've got some students missing from classes. But if you know your numbers, just being able to scroll down and see your total is super duper handy. And then if there's anything that you need to double check, let's say we've just made some changes to the timetable and I want to check that, I want to spot check a few students and make sure that they're in the right places, I can come to their parents invoice. Let's find a nice big one, Sophia. And then here we can just see, these are the 6 classes that Layla's in. If there are any tax or discounts, they'll be worked out and shown for you here. And this is just where we can edit their classes. So if you do need to make any final tweaks to an invoice, we can do so here. One thing that I've found a huge time saver, actually, we charge an annual enrollment fee per family, which happens every September. And I almost always forget to do it and have to go and do a second round, but I'm committed this year to not forget. And the simple way that we can do things like that is to select all of these invoices, come to group actions, and then I'll probably scroll straight past it. Here we go, add item. So we can add an item to a whole bunch of invoices, and let's just call this enrollment fee. I never know if it's 1L or 2Ls. But there it is, and this also has no tax on it, and let's make it £20. Now, if you charge an enrollment fee per student, which we used to do until we switched it up, then You just have to remember who your siblings are and come and find them in the list here. There isn't an easy way of doing that at the moment, unfortunately, but just a quick tip of how you could do a per student enrollment without having to go to every single individual, just a second pass to pick up the brothers or sisters, and then add it again. Now, from here, it couldn't really be more simple. We select our draft invoices, we head to group actions, and we hit approve. Now, there's lots of steps to this so that you don't have to worry what you click on, because it's not going to go to them until you hit the big red button, because especially when we just made changes, I'm always a little bit nervous of sending invoices out to people because, oh, what if it's wrong? And they think I want too much money from them. I get really socially awkward like that with sometimes. So just to reassure you, nothing gets sent to a customer until you hit the big red button at the end. By default, Class Manager will email the document and an invoice email to the customer, which we're going to talk about in a second too. And the due date is also really important, because obviously this is when you want paying by, but there are a whole bunch of automated emails that we can set up that will look at this date and decide when to trigger and when not to trigger. There's also something on, yes, this is it, on Go Cardless or Stripe payments. If you are taking automatic payments, the actual money is taken 1 day before the due date. So if you communicate to your customers, hey, we use Go Cardless, don't worry, we take automatic payments, so you can't forget, you haven't got to worry about it, we'll handle it all for you. It's going to come out on the 1st of the month. Make sure you set your invoices to the 2nd, because Go Cardless will trigger 1 day before we tell them to, just to get that ball rolling. But then once we hit approve, in fact, we won't do the 2nd of May because that is a bit soon. So the 2nd of June, hit approve, and again, the big red button here. And now all of those invoices will get processed and go out. Again, if you've got a few hundred of them, it won't show everything straight away because it's processing them all as we go down the line. But when I head back to my dashboard, I should now see, there we go, there's some outstanding payments which we didn't have earlier on. Okay, we're back onto Notepad territory now. Before we head into emails and some payments, I'm checking Danielle again.
All good, Rob. I'm just jumping in and typing as quick as I can, so we're all okay.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so here is where we can branch out lots of different ways, because at this point, it's all kind of important. So let's go. Actually, let's start with something easy and simple first. We're going to go to notifications. So in settings and notifications, we have a whole bunch of notifications that we can toggle on or off depending on what information we want to be reminded of. For me, I would always say, if in doubt, turn them all on. And then the ones that you get fed up of seeing, go back and turn them off, because we don't want you to miss out on any important information. These notifications, if you have the Class Manager app installed on your phone or a tablet, will also come through to your home screen like you've been tagged in a Facebook post, only it doesn't make your heart drop as much as when that happens. You know, what embarrassing photo am I in? Oh my God. But also in your Class Manager program here, you'll see a little bell icon in the corner. Here it's got a number 7 next to it, and I can just see that there are a bunch of notifications here that I haven't dealt with or haven't seen. And when you have dealt with them, just hit mark as read, and they will all disappear and be set up like that. So absolutely recommend turning these on, because if a person registers for a trial or a person enrolls themselves onto your portal, you may have a follow-up sequence or a welcome email that you want to make sure they go into. There are plenty of automations inside Class Manager for after a person has booked a trial or registered on the portal. But I know that there's oftentimes you might want to get it into a MailerLite or a MailChimp campaign and start that process as well. So it's always good to have your finger on the pulse and see those notifications as they come in. Let's go into billing reminders next, actually, because I was making such a fuss over the due date being super duper important. So under billing, we can come to settings and reminders. Now, it will, by default, you'll come to it and it will look like this. So we just want to enable this feature and then tell the system which reminders we want to send. So we can have a before the due date, and this one can be set to maybe, I don't know, 3 days. And on the due date, we'll fire out if the invoice is not paid by the due date, and then an after due date, which is basically saying if it hasn't been paid by this many days, then send this email. If you are marking off payments manually, you're taking cash or bank transfers, I would recommend that you give yourself a lot of leeway, especially on the after due, or you make sure that your email templates, which we'll jump into now, are worded in such a way that you aren't going to get a snarky reply, because we know what parents can be like. They will pay at the very last minute, and then an automated reminder will go out because you were probably asleep or hopefully getting some rest, and they're up at 1 a.m. paying invoices, and overnight they get an overdue reminder because you haven't marked the payment off yet. If you are using Stripe or Go Cardless, obviously those payments are immediately and automatically reconciled, so there's no embarrassing moment of somebody accidentally getting an overdue reminder. But if you mark your payments off manually, this next step will be really, really important as well. So definitely recommend turning them all on. And then in messages and email templates.
Rob,
hello.
Sorry, can I just interrupt you for a second? Can you just show them again how you got to that email reminder page?
Yeah, for the payments.
Yeah,
so
please.
we went to billing and settings and reminders. So it's just here, billing, setting, reminders. And then we can toggle on whichever one you want. They're independent as well, so you don't have to have them all on or all off. Some people just prefer to have the overdue turned on. Personally, I have them all on because I got sick of chasing people for money. Let Class Manager do it for me. And when we want to then customize what the message actually says, we come to messages, email templates. And this is a super duper powerful page. So definitely remember this one, guys, messages and email templates, because everything that Class Manager can send, at least I'm sure it's almost everything, can be changed in here. So if I was to just search for the word due, we can see here are those 3 payment reminders that we were just turning on, and we can customize each one. So the before due, everything's got a very white label, one size fits all default text in there. So absolutely recommend you customize it, put it on brand, make it sound the way that your company voice speaks. But mine, for example, on the before due, it's a very polite, you have an invoice that's due soon, please arrange a payment. If you have any questions or need to make an amendment, click here to contact us, or here's our phone number, whatever it may be. Then the on due is a little bit more firm and kind of goes, well, your invoice is due today. And then the after due one basically screams at them and says, you've got a late payment, go and make a payment right now, please. But in a very kind and fun, professional manner. Then when you come to the point where a payment may still be several days overdue, and someone says, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, that's when we can remind them. There are 3 automated messages that would have gone out. Have you been getting our emails? And we can also check to see that our emails have been delivered and or opened. The thing that would then follow on from this, and this is something that we've only recently kind of plucked up the courage to implement, is in billing settings, we have here late fees. Now, these are disabled by default, and they can also be disabled for individual customers. So if you do want to turn late fees on, but there are certain people that have difficult circumstances, but they always come through in the end, and you want to look after that customer, then you can turn on late fees for everybody, but then minus off the chosen few who you don't want to get them. And then we have a few options in here, whether to resend the original invoice or not. How many days after it being late does the late fee get applied? You can change the description of it as well, so it doesn't have to be called late fee. You could call it something different. And then we can choose whether it's a fixed amount or a percentage of the value. So if it was percentage based, somebody who's £100 late would pay a greater late fee than somebody who's only late on, say, £25. Again, with tax, there's also a tax option if you are in the sort of tax area. And then we have a final option as to whether to enable fees for partially paid invoices or not. So if you're happy that somebody's paid some other invoice, then it will exempt them from the late fee. But if you want it all to be paid on time, then you have an option here to apply a late fee to part paid invoices and only the remaining outstanding amount. So I think it's enough of me talking for a minute, because we're going to switch gears to how new people join. And this is where, if you have a phone handy, you'll be able to play around with this. So let's just make sure that our classes were turned on. Yeah, these are great. Yeah, okay. So new joiners are really, really important because students age out, students lose interest. Attrition is just a thing that we all have to deal with. So it's really important that we have a good way of getting new people in and making the journey as easy for them as possible. There are 3 different ways that a person can join your class manager account and sign up for your classes, depending on how you like to run things. So I just said I'm going to stop talking, but I'm going to carry on. I'm going to show everybody all 3, and then I'm going to flash up a QR code, and you can have a go at the one that you like the most. So the first one is our class enrollment link. This is actually the newest addition to Class Manager in terms of these sorts of features. And what this does is it displays a list of classes, and it's filterable by age, and it's filterable by venue. So if we hit apply, and this is true for quite a few things actually in Class Manager, when we apply a filter, it gets added to the URL. I'm pointing, like you can see my screen, to the URL up here. So if you're speaking to somebody and they say, hey, what classes do you have for a 4-year-old? You can either send them this link, or you can send them the link that's already pre-populated with age 4 as a filter. Or if you operate in different areas, you can also pre-populate by venue. But what the class enrollment link does next is takes them straight through to a registration form. So this is for people, this is for new people, and this is for people who they just sign up. If that's the way you do it, this is the link for you. You either join or you don't join. We're not doing trials. We're not having the registration and then look around at the timetable. We do timetable first, pick your class, and sign up. If that's the way that you do that, then the class enrollment link, which lives just down here, is the one for you. The next one is our register link, which instead of asking them to choose a class, lets the person register and enroll on your portal. So they will put in all the normal details plus any custom fields that you are asking. So it's possible to add custom fields like, how did you hear about us? And attach that to the customer. I know that a lot of gymnastics academies will ask for like GB PIN numbers and things like that. So you can attach those kind of questions to the student, or if there's any questions about health conditions, photo consent, insurances, they can all be added here so that when the person registers, you can get that information from them right there and then. And then the third option is your trial link, which is just in here. So we go to trials, settings, copy that link. And this one is my personal favorite. I prefer this way of doing it because from here, a person can pick a class. They can then select one of the remaining dates of the season. I know lots of people out there do multi-week trials. It's not something Class Manager is currently set up. The workaround that we would suggest if you do offer multi-week trials is to either, and I'm going way into deep trial stuff here, is to either charge the amount that you charge for that 2, 3, 4 week trial period on the single booking, and then we just add them in manually behind the scenes to the follow-up dates, or you make the class cost the individual class cost and have your automated response tell them Great, now go into the parent portal and book your follow-up trials. I appreciate that's a workaround, but it is some feedback that we hear loud and clear, and multi-week trials is something that is definitely on our radar for now. If you do it that way, I hope that one of those 2 explanations helped. If you want to go through it, one-to-one at some point, please do just get in touch and we'll be happy to help you set that up. But they are the 3 things. So let's see if I was clever this morning or if I was not. And mobile phones at the ready. If you run your classes on the sign up link, just scan that QR code for me. If you want to be able to just sign up and join a class straight away, have an experiment. I am going to do the other 2. So if you do your classes by booking a trial or you do them through the registration link, we're going to show that one in just a sec. And hopefully that was enough time for people to flash their phones. This next one is the registration link. So if you would rather have your people sign up, complete a registration form, and then they have access to your portal, they can browse classes to either enroll or try, then this is the link for you. Give everyone a second because I can't see you all. Hope that was enough time. And then finally, for trials, if you would prefer your customers to come to you through booking a trial, then do this here. Please bear in mind, guys, if you complete this process right now, you are going to be going into my account, which I am screen sharing and recording. So don't provide too much personal information. Use a fake phone number. If you want to see the automated replies, use a real email address. If you're not too bothered about them, just put gobbledygook@gmail.com. And that should allow you to proceed with registration. Now, one thing that I would also like to point out, and I probably should have done this at the very beginning, is if we head to settings and company and just expand that, then you click the word information down here. This is where we have a few really good controls for how much access people can have of your account without your say-so. So the first one being portal enrollment. If disabled, nobody can enroll in classes. If it's set to manually approve, they can essentially knock on the door, you get a notification, and you choose if to let them enroll in that class or not. Automatically approved enrollments will let them into the classes, but then you'd have to remember to go and invoice them if you're not taking automatic payments. And then the fourth, and my favorite, and the way that I have our dance school set up, is to require upfront payments on enrollments. So if anybody goes into my parent portal and they set themselves up for, enroll their daughter in a musical theatre class, it's going to charge them for that month of that class. I haven't got to then go, oh gosh, I never sent them a bill. And then secondly, just down here, we have automatically approved portal registrations. Now, if this is turned off, when people register, they will have limited access to your portal, which means they can't see all the information and they can't access all the features. Personally, I have mine turned on to approve full access because as soon as somebody's registered, I want them to be able to browse more classes, book more trials, see the information that we've put on the portal notice board. And I'm not really too fussed if they can see that kind of stuff. However, if you have lots of members, strictly members only information on your portal, then it might be worth you having that turned back to manually approve so that you just go and toggle them in once you see the notification. Couple more things on this page that are quite important is emailing receipts. As soon as a payment is made, it sends a receipt out. The default invoice due date, if you're always having to change the due date, you can just set the default there to what you would usually have. For the PDF registers, as I mentioned here, there's a few things that we can turn on or off so that they do or don't display on your PDFs when you download them. And anything super important here before we move on. Yeah, attendance settings. So this one is really great for anyone who works termly or half termly. When a person is enrolling for classes, you can have the option for them to enroll in only the remainder of the term if you wanted to. Otherwise, it will default to try to charge them for the whole season. Again, it just depends on how your joining process works and how much control the parent has as to whether you'd want one of them or the other displaying. And this one actually, I know, a bit like the happy birthday widget earlier on, this is really not important, but it's such a huge quality of life thing for me. In your database data table settings, you can change to 100 per page, which means that whenever you load a page, it will just show you the maximum amount. The default for this is 10, which is the lowest setting, just for a loading speed optimization. But most of the time, people are on a stable internet connection that can handle loading all the data like that. So if you're fed up of clicking next page to get to the next 10, come and change this here. I can see a few smiles there. And I know that's a pain point. Come and change this to 100 and enjoy. Okay, there's a few more areas I want to go in, but I'm going to take a breather. Also to give you guys some time to play on the phones if you are signing up right now. Did we have anything in the chat that I need to respond to, Danielle?
Bear with me, Rob. I'm just catching up on the last couple. I think we're okay at the moment.
Okie dokie. I'm just going to real quick go and look at that webinar class that we made earlier, because if you can, I would love somebody to find and book in for the webinar class. Oh, I know, no, you can't even see it yet because I haven't turned on. Let me go and turn enrollments on for you, and then it'll work. Yeah, so feel free when it displays, if you are here, to book yourself into a trial of the webinar class, and it will just be really interesting to see if anybody makes that. And it's nice for you guys as well, just to experience the journey as a customer would experience it, so that you know what automated emails fire when, what information you'd like to put on there. So I'm gonna just, yeah, we're going to make a strange diversion now into point of sale, because I know this was something that a person asked about on their booking, and I think a lot of us would actually be quite interested to see how this works. So point of sale, first and foremost, it only works with Stripe currently. So if you have a Stripe account, fantastic, you can set up your point of sale for people to make purchases on their parent portal and on the Class Manager app. That's something I need to make a quick note of, actually. 26. Yeah. So how do we get started with point of sale? First of all, we can create products. So we're just going to call this test item. Product code will automatically be pulled from the name, but if you have a particular code that you want to use, you can override that. Let's just make it a tenner, and the description is this is a test item. Now, if this is something that you keep in stock at the studio, you can have stock control, and you can say, okay, we keep 10 of these, and as they get purchased, your stock will move down. If it's items that you order in once a person makes a purchase, then just leave stock control turned off. Here we can add an image if you have pictures. And then from here, we can also add variations. So if you have different sizes, colors, variations of whether it's a zip hoodie or a pullover hoodie, those kinds of things, we can actually create variations and then add them to the product. So rather than having a shoe and then you have to go and add every single shoe size to every single type of shoe, you upload your shoe sizes as a variation, and then you attach those variations to that product. So let's go and create one of those now. So I believe we go into settings, and we'll just call this size. UK1, UK2. And this could obviously be color or design or style or whichever. And then we'll see we've now created a variable called size. So if we head back to our products and we want to add some variations, we can now choose to add these sizes to that product. And if they are different costs, because as a lot of you will know, when you're buying uniform, that as soon as we get to an adult size, I think it's from 3A and above in like IDS leotards or something, we have tax to pay on them. So you can incorporate that, or if it's not necessarily a tax thing, you could just change the base price and say, you know, I'm sorry, as soon as you get to a size 3, it becomes £16 because that's an adult product. Now, for things to show on the customer portal, they need to be in categories. Anything that's not in a category won't show up to parents. So if you do have items that you want to be able to have manually put through in, you know, or from the back end of your system, but you don't want customers to be able to see it, just don't put that item in a category. But for now, let's just go to create a category. I think I might do this in settings, actually. I do. Point of sale categories. 3. There we go. And we'll say test items. Type it in the right box would help, Rob. So if you have categories that are nested together, for example, you might have ballet uniform and then leotards, shoes, cardigans. You can have them nested together so it's nice and tidy. A lot of times people don't have that many items, but if you do have lots and lots of different variations and you want to keep it nice and simple for your parents to navigate, then definitely recommend putting parent categories together. Test description active. So I know I'm running through this quite quickly, but this is just a quick way that we can show how different categories can be, different products can be created with different sizes, different prices. They can all go into different categories. We can have stock management. They can have items attached to them or not attached to them. And just what we've done here is toggled the test items that we've created into the test product. So any of you guys who do register, you should be able to then see my online shop when you are logged into the parent portal. It's also good that you can do that from the app, which I always recommend people tell their customers to download, just because, again, their schedule is on there, your notice board is on there, all of their invoices are on there. If they've got the app installed, they're going to be asking you so many fewer questions. So on the notice board, actually, that segues nicely into how we can use our notice board, which is just this item here. By default, this will go to everyone's portal. So if they're logged in the browser or they're looking on the app, we could just say, hello world. Thanks for coming. I can choose certain classes. I haven't got any live classes right now, but I could choose certain classes to see this if I wanted to keep it confidential to just those people. Let's say we have an adorable picture from the baby class, but we only want the baby class parents to see it. Then on here, we could just select the baby class and only those people will see it on their portal. We can also pin certain items to the top of the notice board, and we can set an expiry date. So if I set that as pinned and to expire on the 30th of May, and again, anybody looking at my portal will be able to see those items there. Before we go any further, how are we for questions?
All good.
Very good. I'm also aware that I have spoken for nearly an hour already. That's gone. It feels like 10 minutes. So I'm going to go through real quick and just show everybody the parent portal and the parent journey from a parent point of view. And then I think we may have to call it for the recording at least. And if anybody wants to stay and ask some more questions, we can do that too. So let's head off and let's join our school. So we're going to do it in an incognito window. If you are ever testing things out as a parent and you don't want to have to constantly log out and log back in because you can't be logged in as staff and customer in the same browser, just open up an incognito window or private browsing window, and then you'll be able to tab between the two nice and simply. So I'm going to join as, let's put Rob at stagestubs.com. Use a super secure QWERTY password. And tick these T's and C's. It will let you progress initially without ticking these, but if I leave this unticked, when I try to finish the registration, it's going to send me back here and say, hey, you didn't tick this box. So you can see it's grayed out now. In this example, we're just going to register for myself to make it quicker. But if they choose child, they'll have their own details and the child's details. But in the case of adults attending adult classes, we will duplicate the data behind the scenes so they haven't got to enter everything twice. If you're doing adult classes, it just feels a bit weird to put yourself in as the customer and the student. So we eliminated that step and we now do it behind the scenes for the customer. Just put in a phone number like that, and then date of birth can just be whenever. So quick address field. And again, anything that you have added as a custom attribute will be on these forms. That really, really worth looking into. And here is our parent portal. Now, if I did my job right earlier, when I click shop, we have the test items that we created a little bit earlier on. You can click on them. Or maybe I didn't do it right earlier. Oh yeah, there we go. And we can choose the product. Obviously here we'd usually have a nice beautiful picture of some shoes or a leotard or whatever. We can see there are the sizes that we created earlier, and we can then add them to our basket and they can make that payment there and then. I'm going to say this has happened to me dozens of times, but not anymore, is when somebody places an order at the studio for a £46 pair of tap shoes. You go off to and they turn and go, oh no, she wants to do tap anymore now, and you're stuck with that stock. Well, this can't happen now because they have to pay when they purchase. Thank God. Hello World is our little notice board item that we added earlier. You can see it's pinned to the top and the date that it was added is just here. So it's really good to add things like your comp dates, any exam information, show, rehearsal information, put it on here, pin it to the top. Obviously mine was really small and simple, but you can put quite a lot. I think the character limit is 5,000 letters, or it can just be a simple thing that says, hey, go to the website and read the thing about the show. But then from here, what we can do is head to classes, and we can either go to trials and apply to new lessons, which will take us to our screen that we saw earlier on. Or if we were ready to join classes, then we can head back. If I just go back here, we can head back to the enrollment section. And this is where, when my internet wakes up, this is where the parent chooses which student they're currently wanting to enroll into a class. And here are the only classes that are available for my age range on this system. And we can see there's the webinar class that we created earlier. We can see the start date, the end date, how many lessons are in there, the time, the staff information, and all that sort of stuff. When a person proceeds with their enrollment, depending on the settings that you have, whether it's automatically approved or it requires approval or it's an upfront payment, this process changes slightly. But in my case, I'm able just to proceed through to the enrollment, make the payment of £0, and away we go with my successful enrollment. Now, if I head back to my dashboard, oh, I've got some more customers, people who've joined. Mel and Jenny, welcome. Hope you enjoy my classes. I'm a terrible teacher. And we could just head to the web in our class. We've got it in April and in June, so let's see. And we can see the student list. That's April, so we'll check June, student list. Yeah, there we are. So that's the enrollment that I've just done. This sort of stuff is definitely worth playing around with. Join your school as a test parent, see what automated emails you get, have a good look through the list here of all the different things that you can customize. Some really, really great ones are, if I spell the word trial correctly, Rob, these are your trial booking reminders. So when someone books a trial, they get the trial completed email. The day before, they get a reminder. And then if you've got it turned on, they get a follow-up, whether they were present or absent. So you can send a different message that says, hey, thanks for coming, or, oh, sorry you couldn't make it. Do you want to rebook? And all that can be turned on automatically. Okay, I'm going to stop because I could just keep going. How are we for questions, Danielle?
All up to date, Rob. I'm just
Cool.
thinking, is there anywhere on the dashboard where we have, or anywhere where we have the link? Because I know we have the parent portal, register link, enrollment link, trial link, but do we have anywhere where they can join the app? Or is that just go on the App Store?
There isn't, but I've got a bit of a life hack for that one. In fact, I can't believe we haven't done this. So again, it's not important, but I love it. It is important. Head to messages and go to signatures. Then I'm just going to move my little window out of the way. Then we can see here's one I made earlier, but you can just hit create to make a new one. And at the end of my emails, I've just put kind regards, Rob Howarth, and then here is some links to our social medias. But what we could also do, and I'm just going to go to, I'm on the screen for a second, just Googling Class Manager's app. Class Manager portal app. So we can find the link in the Google Play Store. So what I'm doing, just so we can see, is this page here is our App Store link. Obviously, you need Android and iOS. So I'd copy and paste this link into here, and I would say download our app, and we can put Android and iOS, and then just hyperlink the word Android to the Google Play Store version. I won't finish it properly, but you see where we're going with this. And then when we create our emails, every email you sign off, just drop that signature in the bottom there. And then every time you send an email out manually, it's got that information on it there. You can also put this on things like, if we go email templates and invoice, because people are going to be getting invoices from you most months, you could copy and paste that same signature here, so that every time someone gets an invoice, they also get, here's our show dates, here's our uniform policy, here is our app that you can download, here's a link to the parent portal. So we don't have a link that we can send them as such from here, but I absolutely recommend sticking it in your email signature. Mine's got about 15 links in it. It's probably a bit too much, a bit overkill, but that gives me the ability to say, you know, I had some parents, we had our show last weekend, and I had some parents about 3 weeks ago going, oh, I've got no idea. Where are we going again? What's the show? And I was going, it's been on the bottom of every email I have ever sent for the last 11 months. Like, come on, guys. But anyway, I'm going to pause the recording now. So bye, anybody who's joined us on the recording. Thank you. Please do get in touch if you've got any questions that weren't covered in this webinar.